Ho, ho, ho!
To start off, I really want to do this nail set as press-on nails. So instead of applying them using the soft gel method, I am going to do the designs off of the nail and then apply them when I'm finished using adhesive glue tabs that you use for press-on nails. But on the nail tips, we have some glazed soft gel tips, the extra long stilettos. And I want these to be as pointy as possible. So we're going to just taper in the sides a little bit so we can have a nice point on this stiletto tip before we get started with our gingerbread festivities. But starting with the base color, I really want to focus on the shade of brown that you see when you see a graham cracker, because that's basically what a gingerbread house is. So I did not have that exact shade. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix some colors together to get that nice graham cracker toasty shade that we want, shade of brown that we want. So first I tried mixing orange with a lighter shade of brown, and honestly this shade is not bad, but I need it to look a little warmer. So I found this shade of brown in my Valentino gel polish collection, and adding that did what needed to be done. It adds that toasty warmth to it, and that's what we need. That's exactly what we need. I ended up putting 2 coats of that onto the nail first to start everything off. We're gonna cure each coat for 30 seconds, and now I'm gonna put 1 coat of matte top coat on top of this and cure it for 15 seconds because we are going to do some ombre with some pigment powders. I'm gonna go ahead and get out my pigment powder palette from Not Polish, and we're going to focus on that dark brown because that's going to give us that toasty look. I still want it to look toastier than what it looks like right now. Adding the darker shade of brown with the pigment powder is really going to give it a little bit more dimension. We're going to lightly brush around the perimeter of the nail, and you almost get kind of like an aura look because it's going to be lighter in the center of the nail. And I'm not mad at it, but I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. The brush I'm using is actually a makeup brush. I just like using big fluffy brushes when it comes to doing ombre with pigment powders. It's a nail brush now, but I'm going to put a matte top coat on top of that to protect the pigment that we just put on here. And now we can get into the nail design for this finger. So this drawing is basically inspired by gingerbread houses with the detailed piping that you see. I found some pictures on Pinterest and I was just like, I have to get these details on at least one nail. But we're going to start with the peppermint that I have in the middle of the nail. And to do this, I'm going to use Savalan's non-stick solid sculpting gel. And when I tell you this gel is the best gel to use whenever you're doing 3D nail art or you're making your own nail charms like I'm doing right now, because it's not sticky. Like it doesn't stick to your gloves whenever you're trying to mold it into whatever shape that you want it to be in. So if you're struggling with your sculpting gel sticking to your gloves and you don't want to use your bare hands, definitely check this out on Amazon. I will have the link in the description. I'm going to go ahead and cure this for 60 seconds. And once that's cured, we can go ahead and do our peppermint swirl. Now, after I'm done making this peppermint on this nail, we're going to pop it off of here and glue it onto the other nail that we had with the brown base color. Sometimes I just prefer doing some 3D nail art off of the actual nail that I want it to be on, which is why I call these my little DIY nail charms. Now I'm going to go in and fill in every other swirl red. But to do the swirls, I'm using a small detail liner brush from Kiara Sky, and the red gel polish is from Valentino. Now, after I finished the peppermint, popped it off of this nail and put it on the actual nail we're going to do the nail design on, I actually didn't like it. I thought it was too big, number one, and number two, it was too dull. I needed to put a coat of white down first and then do the peppermint design on top of that. So I did that off camera just to get the exact look that I wanted. But now we can move on to the detailed piping design that was on the gingerbread house. I can't even lie to you, this design was a little intimidating, and I thought it was going to be harder than what it actually was, which is why I'm going to break the whole design down for you in like 2 seconds. To make painting the details on here easier, I just made everything begin and end with a dot. That's basically the whole design. So I'm going to use a dotting tool, and I'm going to just do a dot to start the design, and everything is going to mirror onto the other side of the peppermint. So I'm going to make that same dot on the other side, and I want this design to kind of be a dramatic spiral. So we're going to start from the middle of the dot, and we're just going to swirl out with it. And from there, I'm going to continue to make that swirl as dramatic as I want it to be and do the same thing to the other side. And like I said, the design is going to start and end with a dot. So once I make my swirl, I'm going to go ahead and put a dot where I want the design to end. And then from there, you're going to do the same exact thing that we did in the beginning. Just start in the middle of the dot and then swirl out. But this time you're going to swirl into the line that we already created. And that is going to complete our little swirl situation we got here. And that's literally how I did every single design that's on this nail as a whole. Everything begins and ends with a dot. To me, that just makes things a whole lot simpler because it was, like I said, it was a little intimidating looking at the picture, but it ended up turning out so good. I love the way this looked. Now, for this design, I used Kiara Sky's white gel pods and, of course, the small detail liner from Kiara Sky as well. I really love the way dumping acrylic on top of the design before you cure it gives it that thick icing look, and that's kind of what I was going for with the acrylic. So basically, I do the nail design, then before I cure it, dump clear acrylic on top of that, then cure it for 60 seconds, and then dust off the excess acrylic off the top. And then we have that thick icing look with the designs that we have on the nail. And I'm obsessed. I absolutely love the way this nail turned out. 10 out of 10. This next design is mostly inspired by the little shingle designs that was on the roof of one of the gingerbread houses that I saw on Pinterest. And I was thinking we could put that in a French nail. So I did a little practice nail of the design off camera, and I ended up loving it. So that is exactly what we're going to do for this nail here. I think this is the middle finger, either the middle finger or the ring finger that we're doing here. So I started with a French line, the outline of a French line, and then we're going to do kind of like a scallop pattern or a scallop design to represent the shingles of the roof that we saw in the Pinterest picture. And the design itself ended up turning out so cute, but I'm not going to lie to you guys. It was a little tedious to do, only because I had to go over it twice to get the line as thick as I wanted it to be. But it was worth it in the end because it looks really good. I ended up pouring acrylic on top of the finished look so we can have that same thick icing look for this nail too. And in the drawing, I did have some little gumdrop buttons for this nail, but I decided not to do that because I didn't want it to be too busy. But I'm going to put the gumdrop buttons on a different nail, so just stay tuned. But I also wanted to do little dollops of icing around the French line, which is why I didn't want to do the gumdrops because I thought it would be too much going on. But as you can see, I got back out my Savillon sculpting gel. I want the icing dollops to be tiny. I don't want them to overwhelm the design of the nail and just take over. So I rolled it up into a small ball, placed it on the nail, and I'm using the sculpting tool to bring it to a point at the end. And I didn't cure yet. I'm going to take a glob of white gel polish and do one little streak down the middle, and then do the same thing on both sides of the little dollop, and then cure. Now, I saw a creator do this, so I wanted to try it for this look. It's a different method than I did the last time I did these icing dollops. And I liked the method, but I didn't necessarily like the 3 streaks. So I'm just going to do one streak down the middle, cure that, and then put a coat of the white gel on the whole dollop of icing that we did. But shout out to that creator that had this idea because I honestly think this is what helped me make the little dollops small, because with that other method that I tried, it's cool, but it definitely swallowed the whole nail. So I love the way this turned out. Now we're on to the thumb, and on the thumb I have the cutest little gingerbread man. So we got to get in the kitchen and we got to bake him up right quick. I'm going to use Savalan sculpting gel in the color nude. I thought nude would be perfect for making a little gingerbread man. First I want to roll out his head. I want to cut this down to just about the size that I want his head to be, and then roll it up in a little ball. I'm going to use the leftover sculpting gel that I had for his body. But for his head, I'm just going to roll up a little ball and then put it on the nail and then push it down flat just a little bit. And then we're going to get out that leftover gel that we had on the side and use it for his body. I'm going to push this piece down flat just a little bit, and then I'm going to start sculpting out his little arms. This is actually the other end of a cuticle pusher that I'm using, the side with the spatula looking thing. So I'm just using this to help me sculpt out the body. You can also use a sculpting tool that probably will work just as well. And I don't like to cure as I go when it comes to making nail charms, because I think once you put all of the pieces together, you can just let it sit so it can self-level. So that's kind of what I did here. I let it sit for a little while and then I cured for 60 seconds. It looks so cute already. And now all we're going to do is start to add our little gingerbread details. I'm just going to use a little brush here to poke around at it to give it that textured gingerbread look, and then do the actual details on top. I'm going to add the icing and then add his little gumdrop buttons next. And I cured in between each little design that I did, put a matte top coat on top, and then we have a finished little gingerbread man. Now, I made two because I thought I would be able to fit two on one nail on the thumb, but that did not work out. We're just going to put one on there. He still looks cute by his lonesome. But I wanted to set the gingerbread man on top of some fluffy looking icing. So first I'm going to do a French nail design. That's what I brainstormed to put all of this on top of a French design. So in the drawing, I also had the idea to do like this broken outline of icing around the top part of the nail. And I just saw it on a gingerbread man that I saw. He was outlined in icing, but it was, you know, in pieces. It was broken up. The line was broken up. So I was like, I want that somewhere. So we're going to incorporate that here. And it actually looks good. I was afraid that it was going to look a little out of place, but no, it looks fine. But now to my favorite part, which is the icing. So I wanted some thick, sticky, fluffy icing to sit the gingerbread man on top of. And the way that I made the icing was I took some of this sculpting gel and then I put some white gel polish in with it and tried to mix it together. It was a little hard to mix together outside of a bowl, so I just put it in a little bowl, this little dapping dish that I have, and it was easier to mix together, but it was still a little hard to mix together because the sculpting gel is a solid. So I put a little bit of some gel glue in with it, and that made it easier to mix together. And it gave me this sticky, fluffy texture that reminds me so much of icing that I want to eat it. But it was perfect for what I wanted it for. And the reason why I like using the sculpting gel for this is because sculpting gel doesn't really self-level as quickly. So once you place your icing on the nail and you know, do your little swirls in there so it can look nice and fluffy, it's not going to self-level so quickly. Now, it will self-level if you let it sit for too long. So you want to make sure you do what you need to do and get it cured before it starts to self-level. But for the most part, this mixture is the best for that fluffy icing look. After curing for 60 seconds, I did put a top coat on top of just the icing, and this is how it looks. For the pointer finger, I had to bring out my drill because we took a nice little bite out of the bottom half of the nail. So I am going to drill in some little bite marks, some teeth marks at the bottom so it can look like somebody took a little nibble. Now, remember when I said something about gumdrop buttons? Well, this is the nail that the gumdrops are going to go on. So this nail is definitely going to be inspired by an actual gingerbread man. You know, he has the bow and then he has his little gumdrop buttons. So I wanted to incorporate that into this particular nail design. And the gumdrop buttons really didn't turn out as, I don't know, gumdroppy as I wanted them to look, but it's pretty close. We also want to add a bow. So I have this silicone mold of different bows, and I thought this one really gives gingerbread man bow, so I want to put this one on the nail. Listen, I ain't mad at these silicone molds. I don't have to make a bow myself. Oh yeah, I'm gonna use a silicone mold every time. They come in clutch because they save so much time, so I'm with it. I usually put 1 coat of gel polish down first, cure that, and then I fill it in with any gel that's thicker than regular gel polish, and that kind of fills everything out. But although I went on and did this bow, I also had another bow that looked a little better, and I went on and did that mold off camera, and yeah, we're gonna stick with this one. Our gingerbread man likes a little razzle dazzle. We're gonna put a little bit of matte top coat on top before we put the bow on the actual nail, and then we're good to go to cure it on the nail. After the gumdrop buttons make their grand entrance, I'm going to go ahead and cure all of that. And then I'm just going to make the little squigglies towards the bottom. And this is just going to represent the little squiggly line of icing that's always on towards the end of the arms and the legs of a gingerbread man. Now you might as well go ahead and get that icing back out, because for the last nail, we're just going to do some little icing drips. Something super simple, but it screams gingerbread house. Like, you have the icing dripping everywhere on a gingerbread house. So it was only right to do some icing drips somewhere. And I want these drips to be nice and thick. So I wanted to use the icing that we use for the thumb on these drips. And this is the pinky finger, so you never want too much going on the pinky, but just enough. So this just gives just enough razzle dazzle to end out this nail set with. Now, I cannot lie to you, I wanted a lot more of these little sprinkles to be sprinkled in on the drip, but I didn't realize how big they were. So we're only going to do 2 and we're going to call it a day. I'm going to go ahead and dump some clear acrylic on top and cure that. And the drips still look like something was missing. I was going to leave it like that, but outlining them a little bit makes it look even better. I'm telling you, the more like little small details you add to a nail design, it'll just make it pop and it'll make it look more artistic. And that is what this needed to finish it off. And that's everything. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. I want to put these up on the wall somewhere and frame them. Like, that's how good these look. I love the way these turned out. To show them off, I applied them on my nails with some glue tabs that I usually use for press-on nails. So these are like my own personal press-on nails. All I gotta do is do my other hand and I'm good to go. We'll see if I ever get to that. But if you watched this far, thank you so much for watching. I am doing a Christmas nail series on my Instagram and here on YouTube Shorts. So let me know down in the comments what Christmas nails you guys want me to do next. I was thinking about having my husband draw my next nail set for me and then I recreate it. He really wants to do that so bad, so I'm gonna let him do it. So we'll see what next week's nail design is going to be. I'm super excited to do it, so stay tuned for that. And thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my very next video next Saturday.